Have you ever put an EQ on a track? You boosted a frequency because it sounded really good. Then you cut another frequency because it started to peak and you didn't like that frequency. And then you added saturation and compression and EQ and another EQ. And by the end of it, you weren't really even sure why you made half those decisions. I think a lot of us mix this way. We hear something wrong and then we don't always know what's causing the problem. So today I want to try something a little different in this video. Instead of using a plugin to fix my mix, what if I used one to diagnose it? Throughout this session, we're going to have Gullfoss show us where instruments are masking each other, where frequencies are competing, and where important details are getting lost. And then instead of just leaving Gullfoss on the track and calling it a day, we're actually going to go back into the mix, solve those problems ourselves, and then we're going to use Kraftur to bring back in weight, harmonics, and excitement in a much more musical way than just EQing. And by the end of this video, you'll have a workflow that not only helps you make better mixes, it'll help you understand why your mixes needed those changes in the first place. Let's dive right in. The concept of this video is simple. What we're going to be doing is using Gullfoss, and there's 3 different versions of Gullfoss. I'm going to break them down right now. We're going to use this plugin to show us what problematic frequencies keep appearing in our mix. And this is something that is going to be super useful if you're in a studio room that is not necessarily treated acoustically. You're using prosumer grade monitors. You're just like in a not so great environment of listening. This will really help you. And I would also recommend you might want to use headphones a lot more if you're in not such a great listening environment. But let's break down what Gullfoss is and what it's doing and how it's processing and how we're going to use it as a diagnostic tool, not necessarily a mixing tool that we're just going to set and forget. This is the 3 versions, first of all. So we have live. Gullfoss Live is made for, like it says, live recording or live setups where you're at a live band, right? We're doing a live performance and you can do a lot with this just live because it's 2 milliseconds of delay. And then we have the regular version of Gullfoss, which is very useful in so many scenarios. I think the delay on this is about 20 milliseconds, a little heavier on CPU, but a little bit more precise and a little bit better, I hear, on the transients. So it does a better job with the transients. And then lastly, you have the Gullfoss Master. And the Gullfoss Master is really the master, right? This is the best of the best, a little heavier on CPU, but the performance on this is a little bit goes a long way, right? And it's a little bit more subtle, a little bit more surgical. I think it does better with transients. All right, now, a couple features about Gullfoss that we're going to be using. The Tame, the Recover. These are the 2 main ones, right? When you Tame, you're going to be looking for peaking resonance that are happening in frequencies throughout the spectrum of whatever you put this on. So if you're on the vocal mix bus, it's going to be looking for resonance and peaks in the vocal, and it's going to tame those frequencies and peaks down the more you bring the tame up, okay? And then we have Recover, which is going to look for missing frequencies and gaps in the frequencies. Maybe that's from comb filtering. Maybe that's from you're singing into a microphone weird and you're like back here and it's not picking up a certain frequency and you want more body in the vocal. It will start to recover and put more body into the vocal. And that happens on the mix bus. It'll happen on all instruments bus. We're going to try it even on drums mix bus and all vocals bus and all that stuff. So we're going to diagnose the problems that are happening. And we're going to be using these 2 mainly, Tame and Recover. But we're also going to mess around with bias, and I'll show you what that is later in the video. And then we have the Brighten, and then we have the Boost, which allows us to give sort of a smiley face curve or a sad face curve. No, it's really, this is focusing more so on the mid-range and tucking down the bottom and top. And this is going to be giving you that smiley face radio curve that is everybody loves. You know, we want the big bottom and the nice shiny top, right, for pop music. But I'm going to keep that at 0. And the last thing that I'm going to show you is these filters. So this allows us to really hone in on any specific frequency area that we want to hone in on with the Boost, Recover, or the Recover, Tame, and the Boost, Brighten, and Bias, right? So this allows us to really say, hey, don't touch anything below 39 or 105. Don't touch anything above 61, 11,693, etc. So this allows us to really focus on specific frequency ranges, and we might be using that throughout this process. But let's get into diagnostics, and let's start with the very basics. Let's go to the mix bus. Step 1, master bus, right? We have Gullfoss Master on the master bus. Crazy, right? Before it, we have a linear EQ that's built into Logic Pro, just stock plugin. And then after it, we have a limiter. And this is just catching peaks. I'm not trying to do anything else here. So peaks going, so nothing goes over 0. And we got the linear EQ so that we can shape whatever Gullfoss is showing us as we detect and figure out what's going wrong. Okay, so let's turn this on and let's bring up the Tame. That's step 1 here. Hollywood.
It gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home.
Awesome. So we're taming some frequencies here. Very, very basic. But I'm using this as a diagnostic tool to start with. And that's what this whole video is about. What is Gullfoss taming down? What are the issues that it's finding? And how is it kind of causing separation? And how is it helping the mix get a little bit more clear? Well, let's check it out. Right here on the bottom axis, we have 20 hertz, we have all the frequencies, right? But if you click anywhere, you can see that you'll show the frequencies and the amount of boost or cut that's happening, right? So you can see right here, 58.9, -1.6, right? So let's play it and let's find where it's cutting those frequencies.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I got...
All right, so around that 137 area, it's kind of tucking a really sort of broad spectrum there. So let's go into the linear EQ here and let's grab this here and bring it down right around 110, 115. Right? We'll give it a nice little broad shape there. And then I'm going to bypass this for now. We're still looking at the Gullfoss and using it as a diagnostic tool. And then we're going to go in, play it, and let's start to recover a little bit as well.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home.
Looks like some 520 area. We're going to go in here and we're just going to tuck down a little bit of that. I think that'll give us some more clarity. All right. And of course we can tighten up the Q as well. So we don't want it to be like super, aggressive, but right around here, tuck that down a little bit. And let's see if there's anything that we can boost. I see that Gullfoss is really boosting sort of like all of the highs and high mids, right? It's kind of bringing out a lot more clarity there. So let's go back to it and check it out.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home.
Yeah, we have a nice broad boost going on. So that almost looks like we could just shelf it up, right? So let's go to linear EQ and start shelving around 1K or so. And we will go to this last band here and just go around here. Right? Just bring it up, boost it nicely. And then anything that's going to happen within this area, we can kind of duck down. Anything that Gullfoss is showing us that it's peaking out a little bit. Now this can obviously, you can use this as a diagnostic tool for sibilants, plosives, T's, P's, etc. And pay attention to what it's catching. Maybe it's the cymbals when the crash hits, right? And it goes, kss, and it's like the 4K area gets dipped. So you really want to pay attention to what's going on here. And that's what we're doing, is using this as a diagnostic.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could.
Right, and you see that 2100, that kind of aggressive area right there in the mids, that it's kind of grabbing on the vocals. So we'll probably do that on the vocal mix bus, but in here we can do like a 2100, go really sharp there and just kind of tap that down just a touch, right? So that way we're not boosting all the top end. Now, here's the cool part. Let's turn off Gullfoss and let's hear the linear EQ that we have done with Gullfoss, using it as a diagnostic tool, and listen to the difference between on and off here. Yo, real quick, since you made it this far in the video, I want to give you a discount code for 40% off either Kraftur or Gullfoss or both plugins. Just click that link in the description and use Radium Records as your coupon code. This will expire very, very soon. So if it's already expired, I'm sorry. But if you got here in time, you're welcome. Just say thank you in the comments. All right, back to the show.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home.
So much clearer, much more put together. Before, to me, really sounds like the vocal is like, woo, it's just woofy, and it just sounds like shit. Honestly, it sounds very demo-y. This opens it up, and obviously this is just one stage of our mix, is getting the EQ right. And we're doing very broad strokes as we're on the master bus with a linear EQ. But let's go further into the mix, right? Let's get into the vocal mix bus, and then we'll get into the all instruments mix bus and the drum mix bus, and really start to dial this in so we can, make this a great mix. Now we've diagnosed the master bus with Gullfoss, and we've done some linear EQing to kind of fix things, separate things, and make them sound a little bit better and less murky. But I feel like we can get a lot more fine-tuned if we work on the individual mix buses. like the vocal mix bus, and that's where we're hitting next. And on the vocal mix bus, I'm just going to use the regular Gullfoss because this is what you'll be using most of the time unless you're on the master bus. And the biggest reason I think is because it's not really needed. And if you have the Gullfoss Master, you're just going to be taking up more CPU power. And I think that's really for like the last final tweaks of your mix. But here we're just using this as a diagnostic tool, of course. So let's listen to the vocals in the mix and soloed, and then we'll turn on Gullfoss. And I'm going to show you some different things that I would do with Gullfoss to make sure we're hitting that vocal area.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show. Dyed her hair to be an actress, to a blonde, a shade of sadness, a modern-day Marilyn Monroe.
All right, so we have Gullfoss working a little bit. You'll see that I moved up the bottom. So this is the low pass filter. And what I'm going to do is probably move this all the way up to like where the vocal is. And the bottom of the vocal is usually around like 80, 100 hertz, 120 hertz, depending. This is a male vocal, so it's pretty low. So I'm going to stay around 75 hertz. Now I'm also going to hone in the top because I don't really want too much air in this track. If it was a really poppy, glossy female vocal or something, I might do that. So let's listen and check it out.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show. Dyed her hair to be an actress, to a blonde, a shade of sadness, a modern-day Marilyn Monroe. And I kinda like the role you play.
Now we'll notice it's kind of doing the same thing as what the master bus was doing, in a sense that it is boosting the high end a lot. And the reason being is because this song is just lacking high end, let's be real. So let's take Gullfoss down one, turn it off, and let's just turn on a channel EQ or Pro Q4. It doesn't really matter what EQ you use. And on here, we're just going to bring up a little bit of a shelf here. And on this plugin, on this EQ, we can kind of widen it out and just kind of solo it and figure out where we like that kind of high frequency stuff to come in.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show.
Now I'm really using my ears here. I'm just sweeping around and I'm going, where do I really like the top end of the vocal? And I think it's right around here, 57K or so. So let's go back to our bell and we're just gonna boost that up a little bit. And you can see like 3 dB up, that's quite a bit. But also Gullfoss, if you saw what it was doing, it's also ducking down a little bit of the low mid stuff. So let's pay attention where it's chopping down.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a...
All right, right around that 260 area, right? So this is a great way to diagnose. Obviously, this is a great workflow. So you're not just grabbing at an EQ and going, I'm just going to look at the frequencies. If they're peaking, I'm going to take them down, because a lot of people are doing that. And it's not really a musical way to mix. Let's be real. So Gullfoss is a great way to just kind of show you what's going on. So I'm going to go here and click and find what, like 250, 260, somewhere around here. Now, always use your ears, always listen. So I'm going to solo this out as I sweep it.
As a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show. Dyed her hair to be an actress, to a blonde, a shade of sadness, a modern-day Marilyn Monroe.
A lot of that 500, and you'll see when we turn Gullfoss on once more, I'm going to show you where it's ducking around that 500.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second.
Okay, so like 474 or so. So this is a great way, just get the starting point, right? So 474, let's go right around here, and we'll just duck it down a little bit. And that's it. Now let's bypass the EQ in and out on the vocal mix bus, in and out of the mix.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show. Dyed her hair to be an actress, to a blonde, a shade of sadness, a modern-day Marilyn Monroe. And I kinda like the role you play.
Beautiful, right? Very, very easy. Now I'm doing broad strokes here too. Like this is not crazy. Like you could see there's what, 3 little dots here where we're messing around with 3 different frequencies. Let's check out if there's anything that is ducking, like sibilants or anything up here in the 2K to like 6K area.
She's a dreamer, unbeliever, working part-time as a singer, got a 30-second pitch and show.
Yeah, anywhere from like 2K to 2.3 or so, right? So I'm going to turn off Gullfoss and let's go back to the EQ and let's just go in here and duck down a little bit of this area. And again, we're going to solo it out. We're going to listen.
As a singer, got a 30-second pitching. The sadness of modern day Marilyn Monroe. And I kinda like the role you play. But I know that I'll never be LA.
Amazing. Nice and airy, full, but also the vocals are much more separated and clear. You can hear what he's actually saying, and that's really key. But let's move on to the drum mix bus, and then we'll do the instruments. And then because we're doing so much cleaning and separating, we'll then use Kraftur to sort of bring some of the body back in, the vibe, the harmonic structure, and we'll do that on the master bus mainly. But I'll show you how I use that. Now we're on the drum mix bus and we've already got a lot of clarity. I don't think it's really obvious. So I'm just gonna bypass what we've done so far.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home. Go home. Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home. Go home.
Vast difference already. So let's explain what we're doing with Kraftur. First thing I did, obviously, was turn on Gullfoss, and I've done exactly the workflow that I've explained in this video so far. So doing it over and over and over again is kind of repetitive, and honestly, it's kind of boring. Let's be real. But I've played the drums, paid attention, recovered, tamed, etc., and then turned it off. And then I went to Kraftur and I turned this on. And what I've done here is turned it to the multi mode. I went to 100% here and I've soloed out the bands, found the crossovers. So let's do that. And I'm just going to solo these for you right now so you can really hear them. But there's a low band, 153 and below, mid going from 153 to 5K, and then high end taking over 5K and up. So let's just listen to these soloed. All right, so what I've done is I've used those multi-bands, and with Kraftur, you're basically setting a threshold when you bring down the shift. So you bring up the shift, it's bringing down the threshold. And you can see that in dB right here. So negative 24 dB, right? So if I take it all the way up, you have 18 dB here, and then you can drive it as well. So you could drive the signal into the threshold. Now what I'm gonna do is back to where I was, right around, 10 dB or so. And then on the high, I'm going about 14 or so. And then the mid shift, I'm taking it down a little bit so that it's not actually crossing that threshold and it's not distorting, because I don't want the snare drum to distort and everything. So that's why I'm doing that. Now, once I have this all set, some drive, some offset. Offset means that it's going to start to distort quicker. As you can see, it leans into it. So that's going to happen quicker, the distortion will. And then the knee is going to soften out the knee. That means that a time period, it's going to saturate over a time period rather than immediately once it crosses the threshold. So I'm just setting a little bit of a medium knee. And that's what I usually like on drums anyway. So let's now get this to a level, right? So what I'll do is I'll match it and then I'll apply the match, which Kraftur will match it. It'll say negative 3 dB. Apply it, and then it'll take the output down. But what I want to do now is bring this back up so that it's kind of paralleled, and then I'm going to bring the output up so that the drums are matching a level in the mix that I like.
Down, I'm always burning out and I gotta go home. Go home. Hollywood, another take to sell you something good. You want the boulevard with bright lights, stars in the nightlife, and killing the show.
And that's beautiful. That's a great starting point for your drums. Now you have the sizzly hi-hats, you have the kick. Because it's distorting a little bit, it's got that saturation in parallel. It's going to help that kick be found on smaller speakers like a phone, right? It'll translate better on smaller speakers. I always hate making content like short form content where you're like, check out the low end. And then people are on the phone and they're like, I can't hear anything. Right? Like, yeah, here's before and after on the sub frequencies. You don't hear it. So this allows you, Kraftur will allow you to give you that saturation that will show up on smaller speakers and give you translation across the board. But as you can hear, it also just adds color, some really good gain, and some drive and fullness and thickness to the drums. But that's it. That is how I'm going to treat the drum mix bus. Now let's move on to the instrument mix bus and see what we can do there. For the instrument mix bus, let's just leave Gullfoss on and just see what it does. Because now we're at a point where you kind of understand the workflow. You understand how to diagnose the problems. So let's just use Gullfoss for what it was meant to be used for. And then we're going to go to the master bus and we're going to use Kraftur to really give this some gas and show you a really, really cool trick. So if you made it this far in the video, you're in luck. And again, you guys, I'm going to leave links in the description to these plugins so you can check them out. You get a 14 free day trial. It's fully functional and all that stuff. So just try it for yourself. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to leave hate comments, you know, unless you want to, because that's always fun for me. But if you also are getting anything out of the video, please drop some love in the comments. Instrument mix bus has synths. We have pads. We have guitars. We have rhythm guitars. We have all sorts of stuff going on. So let's hear this going through Gullfoss. We're going to tame and recover, and I'm going to show you how I would set this on the instrument mix bus. All right, a couple things to pay attention to and how I'm setting this. First thing, I'm not going to have any of this down here with Gullfoss recovering at all because I don't want it to be recovering stuff that's going to get in the way of the kick drum and the bass guitar. Second thing, I'm not going to have it have the top stuff because all that sparkle and stuff, I want that like at the top of the cymbals and maybe even the vocals if I wanted vocal air on like a pop track. But it's not really necessary for guitars and synths, like analog synths, to be going and getting anything 17K and above. That's crazy. Third thing, boost is at 3.8, which means it's starting to carve that mid-range and it's going to leave a lot of room for the vocals. So let's pop it in and out of the mix so you can really hear what it's doing. Oh, and lastly, I did take the brighten and turn it down a little bit. Okay. So that's going to allow me to make up that brightness as well a little bit at the top. So let's pop it in the mix.
It gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home.
Amazing. Such a great processor. And it's always been a really awesome tool for this specific use case. Putting it on an instrument mix bus and separating everything. And that's the big thing I want you to hear out of this. If you're paying attention with your ears, you got headphones on, you're listening on speakers, I want you to hear, and I'm soloing this so you can really hear it, how it separates all the elements. All right. So turning it on and off, and I'll actually just use the bypass here because that'll be easier. Check it out. Everything gets its place because it's dynamically working on stuff, which is really cool. And you can't do that with a stagnant EQ. Now, last thing I'm going to do here. Remember, I have the linear EQ on the master bus here. So you can see what I've done there. And this is a great like curve. I would have never done this curve, by the way, if I wasn't using Gullfoss to diagnose this. There's no way I would have done this, okay? But it's working really, really well. But here's the biggest trick, okay? So right after Gullfoss and this EQ, we're going to put Kraftur on. And remember, we're feeding this limiter here. Okay, so this limiter is giving us really no gain at all. There's nothing going on here, but it will start to reduce. So let's see and hear what it's doing right now with all the information. This stock limiter.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could.
Okay, so it's reducing the peaks by about 3 dB or so. It looks like 4.9 at its like height, which is really like the punch of the snare. Now with Kraftur, where it's going to allow us to clip and it's going to allow us to get really loud and do some work for us with saturation and everything else so that we don't hit that limiter or make that limiter work as hard because it's going to clip the peaks. Okay. And you see that when this clip illuminates, you see that little clip there, bloop, bleep, bleep. Pay attention to that. Now we're going to go to the multi, and actually let's start with single. Let's just go single band. This is everything. We're going to start to drive it. Okay. You can hear that noise come in, because that's like some real saturation there. And then we're going to set the knee, and we're going to set the offset. We're going to get this to just start to give us some love here. And we're going to start with the match on so we don't hear a volume difference.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out, and I gotta go home. Go home. Hollywood, another take to sell you something good. You want the boulevard with bright lights, stars in the nightlife, and killing the show.
Okay, so I'm showing you the volume difference when we match and then unmatch. So I just option click this and it goes back to 0, okay? But that's single band, and that's usually not what you're going to do on a master bus situation, because you're getting hit with complex waveforms, right? You're getting the drums, you're getting cymbals, you're getting high end, low end, mid range, everything. That's why we have the multi, and this is where it comes in very handy. So let's find our crossover points. Let's go to our low, solo it out, and I really just want to focus on the kick drum and the goof, goof of the snare. That's it. I mean, that is gritty, right? Like, I love that. Like, it is adding such beautiful color to it. And you see that knee, I'm turning it so it's getting nice and chill, right? It's a nice, sweet slope, sexy little slope. 3.7 dB of drive. We're at 100%, remember, so we will blend this back. But now let's work on the mid.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down.
I'm going to take this all the way up to 5K, and I'm going to probably not want to distort too much of the mid. I don't want to add too much saturation here, but let's see and hear what this does as we bring the mid shift up.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out, and I gotta go home.
Yeah, let's keep that nice and clean, right? We're just backing off a little bit, negative 1.4 dB. Now let's go to the high end, and let's just give this a little bit of sizzle and a little bit of crunch. All right, now let's pop it all in, and then let's blend it back so that it's doing parallel, because right now it's at 100% multi.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out, and I gotta go home. Go home.
Now, check it out. Look at that limiter now. This is the really cool part about this, is now I can limit a little bit more and let this limiter do a little bit more work, because now it's only doing 0.5 dB of limiting. Now, this is a big cheat code, and hopefully you guys really like this little tip here. But you hear how big the low end is getting too. It's like getting huge. So we might want to go back to the linear EQ and just tuck this back down a little bit, right? Because we don't want it to get too crazy. I mean, I want it to be crazy, but not that crazy, you know? I'm a crazy dude, so I like crazy. Now we're going to gain this up a little bit for our limiter.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out, and I gotta go home. Go home. Hollywood, another take to sell you something good. You want the boulevard with bright lights, stars in the nightlife, and killing the show. Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could.
Beautiful, right? We get some really nice volume and some perceived loudness, and we let the limiter not pump and breathe and do all this crazy artifacting because it's a stock limiter in Logic Pro, and we're getting a lot more out of the stock limiting. So just getting the Kraftur plugin ahead of the limiter is going to make your limiter sound more expensive automatically. Hopefully you guys really, really like this tip and you've liked this video so far, and if you have, please drop some love, hit the thumbs up, ask some questions if you got any in the comments. And again, I'll leave links in the description to these plugins, 14-day free trial. Check them out. Soundtheory is a go-to for me. I use it in all of my sessions. There's not a session where I don't pull out Gullfoss. So hopefully this has all been awesome for you. It's been really fun for me, and give it a try. Check all this stuff out. And just to leave you on this last note, let's A/B everything that we've done in this mix to hear the difference. All right, here's before all the processing.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home. Go home.
And here's after.
Hollywood, it gives you something that I never could. You got a dream that never dies down. I'm always burning out and I gotta go home. Go home.
Would love to know your guys' thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.